I died choking on my own blood, the taste of betrayal metallic and thick in my throat as my husband's hands, those same hands that once promised forever, pressed the accelerator of his truck straight into the ravine. "It's for the best, Ivy," he'd whispered earlier that day, his voice smooth as the whiskey he'd shared with his parents, right before they shoved the papers across the table. The farm, my parents' legacy, the only piece of them left, was worthless, they'd said, a sinking ship of debt and decay. But as the world blurred to black, I saw it. The surveyor's report they'd buried, the one that could have saved us all. And then, nothing. Until the nothing cracked open, and I gasped awake in my old twin bed, the quilt from Grandma stitched with wildflowers, the alarm clock blinking 6:47 a.m. on a crisp September morning in 2018, 7 years before the crash. My heart hammered like a jackrabbit in a snare, sweat soaking the sheets as I bolted upright in the farmhouse bedroom that hadn't changed since I was 16. The walls were still papered in that faded floral print Mom loved, the one Dad teased her about looking like a botanical explosion. Outside the window, the Iowa cornfields stretched golden under a sky too blue to be real, the kind of Midwest perfection that hid rot underneath. I was 25 again, my body lean from baling hay and running from ghosts, not the hollowed-out shell I'd become by 32. My hands, calloused, unscarred, trembled as I touched my face, feeling the smooth skin where wrinkles from stress and lies should have been. This wasn't a dream. This was hell's cruel joke, a second chance, or maybe just a longer rope to hang myself with. I stumbled to the bathroom mirror, splashing cold water from the chipped porcelain sink, staring at the reflection of Ivy Harper, the girl who trusted too easily, loved too fiercely. The girl who'd marry that snake, Ethan Caldwell, in a shotgun wedding 6 months from now because his charm was a drug and his family's money a mirage. But I knew better now. I knew the crash wasn't an accident. I knew the farm wasn't worthless. And God help me, I knew exactly how they try to steal it all over again. A laugh bubbled up, bitter and sharp, echoing off the tiles. "Not this time," I whispered to the girl in the glass. "This time, you fight dirty." Downstairs, the kitchen smelled of fresh coffee and bacon, the sizzle pulling me back like a tether. Dad was at the stove, his broad back in a flannel shirt, humming an old Johnny Cash tune. Mom was at the table, poring over seed catalogs, her glasses perched on the end of her nose. They were alive. God, they were alive. Their laughter light as she swatted his arm for burning the edges. My throat closed up, tears hot and unbidden. In my first life, they died in a freak tractor rollover just months after the wedding, leaving the farm to me in a haze of grief and mounting bills. Ethan had swooped in then, the knight in shining armor, with his parents' help, turning into hooks that sank deeper until I drowned. "Mornin', sleepyhead," Dad called, not looking up. "You look like you seen a ghost." "Bad dream." "Worse," I croaked, sliding into a chair. Mom's eyes, blue as cornflowers, flicked to me, concern etching lines that wouldn't deepen for years yet. "Rough night? You were tossin' and tunnin' like a fish on a line." I forced a smile, grabbing a mug to hide the shake in my hands. "Just remembered something important. Something I gotta fix." They exchanged that parental glance, the one that said our girls got fired today, and let it drop. Breakfast blurred by in small talk. Harvest yields, the county fair, Ethan's upcoming proposal that I'd overheard in whispers at the diner last time around. Ethan Caldwell, golden boy of Eldridge, Iowa, with his easy grin and family fortune from Caldwell Agri Corp., the kind of conglomerate that swallowed small farms like ours for pennies. His parents, Richard and Lorraine, were the real vipers, old money laced with new greed, always sniffing for undervalued land to flip. After plates were cleared, I excused myself to the attic, the stairs creaking under my boots like old bones protesting. Dust motes danced in the slanted light as I rummaged through boxes stamped with Dad's scrawl. Tools, Mom's china, Harper deeds. There it was, tucked in a mildewed folder. The original survey from 1995, when Grandpa bought the back 40. I'd found it too late before, after Ethan's folks had generously offered to handle the debts. But now, my fingers traced the faded ink, notations about anomalous subsurface formations east of the creek. Not just soil rich for corn, something more. Oil, minerals, in Iowa? It sounded crazy, but the geologist's addendum whispered possibilities that could make or break dynasties. I snapped a photo with my flip phone. Yeah, 2018 tech felt like stepping back in time, and pocketed it. No rushing to the bank or cops. They'd laugh me out as a hysterical widow-to-be. No, this called for patience, the kind that simmered like moonshine. First, I had to play the part. The sweet, unsuspecting Ivy who fell for Ethan's line's hook, line, and sinker. That afternoon, I drove the old Ford pickup into town, the radio crackling with country stations warning about heartbreak I already knew by heart. Eldridge Main Street was a postcard of Americana, barbershop quartet echoes, the feed store with its rusted John Deere sign, the diner where Lorraine Caldwell held court like a queen bee. I parked outside Harper's Harvest, the co-op my parents co-ran, and stepped inside to the chime of bells and the scent of fresh ground coffee. Ivy, there's my girl. Ethan's voice wrapped around me like smoke, his arms slinging casual over my shoulders as he leaned against the counter. 26, built like a quarterback who'd traded pads for polos, with hazel eyes that lied so prettily. Behind him, his buddy Jake nursed a Coke, but my gaze snagged on the woman in the corner booth, Lorraine, pearls gleaming, flipping through a real estate mag with red pen circles around listings that screamed desperate sellers. Hey, handsome, I said, leaning into him just enough to sell it, my stomach twisting like barbed wire. Missed you last night. Working late again. He grinned, that dimple flashing like a lure. You know how it is, darling. Dad's got me scouting properties. But hey, tonight, dinner at the house. Mom's making her famous pot roast. The hook sank in. In my first life, that dinner was the preamble, the soft sell before the hard push. Richard with his spreadsheets showing red ink on our books, Lorraine with her crocodile tears about family burdens. By dessert, the papers were out, the pen in my hand, the farm signed over for a pittance that barely covered the funeral costs after Mom and Dad's accident. Suspicious timing, that rollover. Brakes tampered? A nudge from a shadow? I'd never proven it, but the doubt festered like gangrene. Sounds perfect, I murmured, tracing his jaw with a finger that itched to claw. Can't wait to see your folks. As I left, Lorraine's eyes followed me, calculating, cold. She didn't know it yet, but the game had changed. I was no longer the lamb. I was the wolf in wool. Back home, I waited until the house quieted, then fired up Dad's ancient desktop in the den. Dial-up screeched like a banshee as I logged into the county records site, cross-referencing that survey with modern data. Buried deep in public archives, whispers of untapped aquifers, potential fracking sites. The Caldwells had known. Hell, they'd probably commissioned the hush-hush update themselves, waiting for us Harpers to fold. My blood boiled, but I banked it, printing what I could on the dot matrix printer that chugged like a locomotive. Night fell heavy, stars pricking the velvet sky as I lay awake, plotting. Ethan would propose at the Eldridge Fall Festival in 2 weeks. Fireworks, cotton candy, a knee drop under the Ferris wheel. I'd say yes, reel him in. Then, the wedding, the help with the farm. But this time, I'd have the surveyor on speed dial, the lawyer tucked away, and a contingency that would burn their empire to ash if they pushed too hard. Sleep came fitful, dreams of ravines and ravens, but morning brought resolve. I started small, fortifying the farm's books, quietly selling off excess equipment to pad the coffers without raising flags. Dad noticed, eyebrow arched over his coffee. Getting ambitious, kiddo? Learning from the best. I shot back, clinking mugs. Mom beamed, oblivious to the storm I was brewing. The first real test came a week later, when Richard Caldwell rolled up in his gleaming Cadillac, dust billowing like a bad omen. He was silver-haired, suit sharp as a switchblade, the kind of man who shook hands while counting your fingers. Ivy dear, he boomed from the porch, Lorraine trailing like a shadow in Chanel. Heard you're managing the place solo while Tom's out with that bum knee. Thought we might chat business. My pulse thrummed, but I waved them in with a smile sweet as sorghum. The kitchen table became neutral ground, coffee poured, cookies from Mom's tin. Richard launched in smooth, spreadsheets unfurling like a magician's scarves. See here, the market's tight. Corn prices down, inputs up. Your folks are good people, but this land, it's a weight, not a wing. Lorraine leaned in, her perfume cloying. We hate to see you struggle, sweetheart. Ethan's family, we're family. Let us take the load. Sign it over, we'll lease it back cheap. Keep the house, the memories. There it was, the velvet glove over the iron fist. In my first life, grief had blinded me. I'd signed, thinking it mercy. Now, I sipped slow, eyes on the papers. Appreciate the concern, Richard. But Harper Land stays Harper. Besides, who says it's worthless? They blinked, synchronized, like they'd rehearsed this script 100 times. Richard chuckled, low and patronizing. Girl, I've surveyed half the county. That soil's played out. Debts'll eat you alive. I set my mug down, the clink echoing. Funny you mentioned surveys. Found an old one in the attic. Grandpa's back 40, anomalous formations. Ever hear of that? Lorraine's smile froze, a porcelain crack. Richard cleared his throat. Antiquated nonsense. Let me connect you with our guy. Top-notch, confidential. The hook dangled. I bit just enough. Maybe. For now. Though, we're holding steady. They left with assurances and unease, their Cadillac kicking gravel like spite. I watched from the window, fists clenched. Round 1, Ivy. The Eldridge Fall Festival hit like a fever dream. Booths hawking funnel cakes dusted in powdered sugar. Kids shrieking on the tilt-a-whirl, the air thick with hay and regret. I dolled up in a sundress that hugged curves time hadn't yet softened, auburn waves pinned loose, feeling like a Trojan horse wrapped in gingham. Ethan met me at the gate, his arm possessive around my waist, whispering how I looked like sin on a stick, while his eyes scanned the crowd for his parents' approval. They were there, of course, Richard glad-handing the mayor, Lorraine air-kissing the banker's wife, their presence a net closing in. We wandered the midway, his hand hot on mine, laughter forced as he won me a stuffed bear at the ring toss. For our future, he said, hazel eyes locking with mine, and I almost gagged on the irony. Our future, me buried under accidental debt, him inheriting the Caldwell's expanded empire on the bones of my family's dirt. But I played along, feeding him bites of caramel apple, letting his knee brush mine on the hay bales during the bluegrass band's set. As dusk bled orange into the Ferris wheel's lights, he pulled me aside by the creek that snaked through the fairgrounds, willows dipping like conspirators. Fireworks cracked overhead, blooms of red and gold, and down he went, ring box velvet in his palm. Ivy Harper, you've got me hooked since that first pie at the co-op. Marry me? Make me the luckiest fool in Iowa. The crowd hooped distant, but up close, it was just us and the ghosts. I remembered the proposal's afterglow in my first life. Champagne toasts, wedding plans, then the slow poison of control. His parents' gifts, a down payment on a house in town, strings attached to the farm's mortgage. I'd signed it all away, piece by piece, until the tractor accident left me alone, vulnerable, ripe for the final squeeze. Tears pricked, real ones, for the girl I'd been, and I nodded, letting him slide the diamond on, cool and heavy as chains. Yes, Ethan. God, yes. He hooped, swinging me up, kiss bruising with triumph. Lorraine's applause cut through as they materialized, Richard clapping his back like he'd orchestrated the whole damn thing. Welcome to the family, Ivy, she cooed, hugging me stiff. We've got big plans. The engagement party was at their McMansion on the hill overlooking Eldridge, sprawling colonial with columns like teeth, pool lit blue as deceit. I arrived in heels that pinched, Ethan's hand firm on my elbow as we mingled with the elite. Agri execs, county commissioners, faces I'd later learn wore masks of influence. Toasts rang out, Richard's booming about uniting legacies, Ethan's slurred promise of forever farms. I smiled through it, sipping Chardonnay that tasted like ash, my mind a whirlwind of contingencies. That night, alone in my truck outside their gates, I made the call. The number I'd dug from old emails, Harlan Voss, independent surveyor, the one whose report they'd suppressed. Voicemail clicked on, gravelly and wary. This is Voss. Leave it after the beep, but I don't do callbacks for ghosts. Mr. Voss, this is Ivy Harper. From the old Harper place off Route 14. I found your 95 survey, and I know about the update you did for Caldwell AgriCorp in 2017. Call me back. We need to talk, before they bury you like they buried the truth. Click. Heart pounding. I drove home through fog-shrouded fields, the ring glinting like a taunt. Sleep evaded, replaced by visions. Mom's laugh cut short. Dad's strong hands limp in a coffin, my blood on the dashboard. No more. This life, I'd unearth every secret, starting with the land's veins. Voss called at dawn, voice like sandpaper. Miss Harper? You got my attention. But if Richard Caldwell's name's in your mouth, you're playing with fire. Meet me at the diner, 7 a.m. sharp. And come alone. The diner was a relic. Formica counters, pie under glass, the works. Voss slid into the booth opposite, wiry frame in a Carhartt jacket, eyes sharp under a frayed ball cap. Coffee steamed between us as he leaned in. All right, girl. Spill. How'd you find that report? I slid the photocopy across. Attic. And rumors. You did a private job for the Caldwells last year. Off books, hush money. What did you find? He glanced around, paranoia etched deep. Not here. Back 40, East Creek. Meet me there noon. Bring boots. The creek ran lazy through willows, water murmuring over stones as I parked the truck. Voss was already there, tripod and gadgets spread like a mad scientist's kit. No preamble. He handed me a core sample, dirt dark and veined with something oily. Shale formation, fractured just right. Natural gas, maybe oil pockets. Not gushers, but steady. Worth millions if you frack smart. Caldwell's knew. Hired me to confirm. Then paid me off to vanish it. Said it'd ruin the community if word got out. Bull. They wanted your place cheap. Flip it to investors. My gut twisted. And the accident? My parents' tractor. He shrugged, grim. Heard whispers. Tampered brakes? Richard's got pull with the sheriff. But prove it? Good luck. We walked the line, him pointing markers only he saw. Boundaries they'd redraw if I signed. Girl, you marry into that? You're chum in shark water. Get out or get even. I choose even, I said, voice steel. What'll it take to go public? Immunity. And a cut. Fair's fair. We shook on it. Dirt under nails like a blood oath. Driving back, adrenaline sang in my veins. Step 1. Secure the land legally. I detoured to Eldridge Savings, teller blinking at my sudden deposit from that equipment sale. Trust fund, I lied smooth. For the wedding. Ethan called that night, voice honeyed. Missin' you, babe. Mom's planning the shower, big shindig. Can't wait. I purred, fingers drumming the survey in my lap. The wedding was set for December, Christmas lights and holly to mask the thorns. I'd walk down that aisle, vows exchanged, then spring the trap. But the Caldwells weren't idle. 2 days later, a letter arrived, certified, official, from their lawyer. Harper Farm assessment. Due to mounting liabilities, we propose acquisition at fair market value. Attached, preliminary offer. Fair market? Pennies on the dollar, based on depreciated assets. I laughed, sharp, crumpling it. But inside, the enclosure, a glossy brochure for Caldwell Commons, a planned development on my acres. They'd already drawn blueprints, McMansions, strip mall, the works. Arrogant bastards. I fired back a polite refusal, CCG Voss for his eyes only. Then, the real work, digging deeper. Late nights in the den, scouring online forums for fracking regs, lawyer referrals, even anonymous tips to the Eldridge Gazette. Small leaks, local family eyes expansion. To stir the pot without boiling over. Ethan sensed the shift, cornering me at the co-op. What's with the secrets, Ivy? Dad says you're stonewalling the deal. We're getting married. Act like it. I turned, slow, meeting his gaze with ice. Your deal, you mean? The one that guts my home. His face darkened, charm cracking. It's business, babe. For us. Don't make this ugly. Too late. I whispered, walking away to his stunned silence. Round 2, draw blood. The engagement shower was a spectacle, Lorraine's doing, at the country club with crystal flutes and finger sandwiches that cost more than our monthly feed bill. Women in pastel dresses cooed over lingerie and toasters, but my eyes were on the exits, the whispers. Richard cornered me by the punch bowl, breath sour with scotch. Ivy, be reasonable. Sign, and we'll make you comfortable. Fight and, well, accidents happen. Threat veiled as concern. I smiled, clinking glasses. Like the ones that took my folks. Or the surveyor who vanished after your private job? His jowls slackened, color draining. You don't know what you're. I know enough. I cut in, voice low. And soon, everyone will. I left early, Ethan's texts blowing up my phone. WTF? Dad's pissed. Good. Let the fractures show. Home brought solace. Mom's pie cooling on the sill, Dad's stories by the fire. But as November leaves turned blood red, the pressure mounted. Anonymous calls, breathing heavy, hang-ups. A slash tire on the truck. Voss went dark, email bouncing. Had they gotten to him? Then, the real gut punch. A doctor's visit for routine blood work, courtesy of Lorraine's gift certificate. Results came veiled. Elevated stress markers. Recommend counseling. Buried in the fine print. A psych eval referral flagged for delusional concerns. They'd started the smear. Paint Ivy is unstable, unfit to hold the deed. Rage boiled, but I channeled it. Meeting with a Des Moines attorney, Elena Ruiz, sharp as a stiletto in her power suit. Gas writes, "This is gold, Ivy. But Caldwell's own half the judges here. We need ironclad proof." "Voss," I said, "and the suppressed report." She nodded, fierce. "Then we sue for fraud if they push. But marry him first, get inside." Twisted logic, but sound. The wedding loomed, a gauntlet in white lace. December dawned frigid, snow dusting the church like powdered lies. I walked the aisle to Ethan's grin, vows exchanged under stained glass that mocked purity. The reception blurred, cake cut, dances spun, but my mind tallied exits, allies. Boss texted at midnight. Safe. Got copies. Drop dead date, January 15th. The new year brought the storm. Richard summoned us to the mansion, family meeting. Spreadsheets again, but aggressive, foreclosure threats, loans from their corp that Dad had forgotten. Ethan's face was thunder, but he backed them, my husband, complicit. "Sign it, Ivy," he urged, hand on my knee like a clamp. "Or lose everything." I stood, slow, pulling the ring off with deliberate calm. "Everything? Or just your illusions?" The room froze. I tossed the papers back. "Surveyor's coming. Tomorrow. And the Gazette. Enjoy the headlines." Lorraine lunged, voice shrill. "You ungrateful." Richard silenced her, eyes slits. "You think you can blackmail us? Girl, we've buried better." "Try it," I said, door slamming behind me. Outside, snow swirled, but I breathed free. The trap was set. Now spring it. January in Iowa bites like a cornered dog, winds howling off the plains, frost etching the windows like accusations. The morning after the showdown, I woke to the crunch of tires on gravel, Voss's battered Jeep, pulling up with a trailer of gear. He looked haggard, beard grizzled, but his eyes burned with the same fire I'd seen at the creek. "Brought the big toys," he grunted, unloading seismic thumpers and probes that hummed like angry bees. "This'll map it deep. No dinning after." Elena arrived next, heels unsuited to mud, laptop under arm like a shield. "Filed the injunction this morning. Blocks any transfer pending review." Caldwells'll scream, but it's legal. Dad hovered on the porch, arms crossed, Mom wringing her apron. I'd told them fragments. Enough to rally, not to terrify. "Proud of you, kid," Dad rumbled, clapping my shoulder. "Harper blood don't bend." By noon, the back 40 was a war zone. Stakes driven, lines strung. Voss's team, 2 grizzled techs, firing pulses into the earth. Vibrations thrummed up my boots, echoing the quake in my chest. Ethan called twice, texts venomous. "You're ruining us. Call off the circus." I ignored, focusing on the data scrolling green on the laptop. Confirmed. Voss said at dusk, face smeared with dirt. Shale gas, viable pocket. Conservative estimate, 50 million over 10 years. Royalties alone could fund a dynasty. Elena whistled low. "That's checkmate." We drafted the press release that night. Measured, factual. Harper family uncovers hidden value in ancestral land amid acquisition pressure. I hit send to the Gazette at 2 a.m., sleep claiming me in fits. Dawn brought the siege. Richard's Cadillac led a convoy. Lawyers in suits, a sheriff's deputy looking uncomfortable, Ethan at the wheel of his F-150, face carved from stone. They spilled out like locusts, Richard bellowing from the steps. "This is harassment. Trespass. I'll have you all in cuffs." Voss didn't flinch, arms crossed by his rig. "Public land assessment, sir. Got permits." The deputy, old Harlan from church, scratched his neck. "Ivy, what's the ruckus?" I stepped forward, voice steady as the oak behind me. "Defendant, what's mine, Harlan? Caldwell's want the farm cheap. Knew about the gas, hid it. We've proof." Murmurs rippled. Ethan's eyes hurt. Fury, locked on mine. "Ivy, please. Family. Family." I spat, the word acid. "You mean the kind that murders for millions?" Gasps. Richard blustered, Slander. Arrest her. But Harlan held up a hand. Easy, Dick. Let's see the papers. Elena handed over the injunction, Voss the prelim scans. The deputy scanned, brow furrowing. This looks legit. Stand down, folks. They retreated, snarling threats of suits and scandals. Ethan lingered, grabbing my arm. You witch. I loved you. Liar. I hissed, wrenching free. You loved the deed. He drove off, taillights red as betrayal. Inside, Mom hugged me fierce, Dad's nod solemn. Victory tasted like dust, but it was ours. The Gazette hit stands noon. Front page splash. Hidden treasure beneath Harper Fields. Gas bonanza ignites land war. Quotes from Voss, Elena's analysis, even an anonymous industry insider hinting at suppression. Phones rang off the hook. Reporters, investors, neighbors with pitchforks and curiosity. Eldridge buzzed, dividing lines. Caldwell's loyalists decrying gold rush greed. Harper's allies cheering small farmer strikes back. Lorraine struck first. Op-ed in the afternoon edition. A daughter's delusion. How grief and paranoia threaten progress. Subtle poison. My erratic behavior. Refusal of help. Whispers of instability tying back to that psych eval. Phones turned hostile. Voicemails calling me crazy bitch. Farm whore. I fired back on social media. Raw. Unfiltered. A thread detailing the suppressed survey. The threats. The accidental deaths. They called it worthless to steal it. But Harper's don't break. Like surged, shares from across the state. Save Harper Farm trended local, drawing eyes from Des Moines to D.C. Ethan cornered me at the co-op that evening. Store empty save for fluorescent hum. Divorce papers incoming, he growled, shoving them across the counter. And I'll bury you in court. I signed without reading, pen scratching final. Good luck. With what I've got, you'll need it. He stormed out, but not before Lorraine's Lincoln idled outside, watching, waiting. The real war escalated mid-month. Caldwell AgriCorp sued for defamation, seeking millions in damages. Their brief painted me as vengeful harpy, Voss as disgruntled hack. Elena countered hard, motions for discovery, subpoenas for their emails. They're scared, she said over diner pie, pushing to settle quiet. But quiet wasn't my play. I leaked the core samples to a Des Moines energy blog, igniting forum fires. Big AG versus little guy. Who's the real crook? Protests brewed. Farmers picketing the Caldwell silos. Signs reading, land back to blood. Voss vanished again. This time for real. Truck found torched off Route 14, him gone. Sheriff called it arson, possible flight. My blood iced. They got him, I told Elena, voice hollow. Or he's laying low. Focus, we depose Richard next week. The deposition was theater, Caldwell boardroom, mahogany, and menace. Richard under oath, sweating through his Brooks Brothers. No knowledge of surveys, he lied smooth, eyes on his lawyer. Elena slid the email printout. Voss to Richard, 2017, confirmed viable shale. Recommend non-disclosure for acquisition strategy. Explain this, Mr. Caldwell. Bluster objections. But the crack showed. His tick, a vein pulsing at the temple. Outside, reporters swarmed. I gave no comment, but the damage spread. Stock in Caldwell Agri dipped 5%, whispers of investor pullouts. Home brought no peace. A brick through the kitchen window that night. Note wrapped. Sign or burn. Dad loaded the shotgun. Mom prayed rosaries. We fight together, I said, barricading doors. February thawed the ground, but not the feud. Elena uncovered gold. Bank records showing loans to Dad. Forged signatures. Interest rates usurious. Extortion light, she grinned. We countersued for fraud, racketeering. Ethan testified mid-month, voice cracking on the stand. I didn't know. Dad said it was help. Jurors softened. Handsome boy misled. But my cross. You drove the truck that killed my parents? Brakes failed after you inspected it. Objection sustained, but seed planted. Doubt bloomed. Then, the call. Voss, from a burner. Underground. Got the full report. Deeper pockets than we thought. Oil trace. Sending encrypted. It arrived pixels later. Maps screaming value. 100 million easy. I forwarded to Elena, who hooped. Jackpot. We leak post-depot. But leaks have costs. That night, fire bloomed at the barn. Hay alight, flames licking beams. Dad and I fought it with hoses, sirens wailing distant. Arson again. Sheriff hauled in a Caldwell handyman. Paid off, cracking under lights. They said scare, not burn. Richard posted bail, but the narrative shifted. Predator, not protector. Court dragged. Motions flying like confetti in a hurricane. Public opinion swung. Rallies at the courthouse. Justice for Ivy, chants. I spoke at one. Voice amplified. They took my parents, tried for my home. But blood runs deep in this soil. We rise. Cheers thundered. Inside, I cracked. Nights sobbing into Mom's shoulder, the weight of 2 lives crushing. Worth it, she whispered. For them, I gasped. For us. March verdict loomed, but twist struck first. Lorraine's suicide attempt. Pills, note blaming family stress. Hospital whisper, staged to sway sympathy. Ethan visited me unannounced, eyes hollow. She's broken. Call it off. Tempting, I said, door half shut. But too many ghosts. He left defeated. The Caldwells fractured, Richard isolated, empire teetering. Voss surfaced, testifying remote. Full report, payoffs detailed. Jury gasped at the numbers. Deliberation, 2 days. Verdict, fraud proven. Damages, 20 million. Injunction permanent. Gas rights mine. Outside, flashbulbs popped. I hugged Mom. Dad's arm iron around us. Ethan watched from shadows, gone when I looked again. But victory soured fast. April brought offers. Energy giants circling, checks with zeros blurring. Elena advised, lease smart. Build legacy. I did, forming Harper Energy Co-op. Local farmers in, profits shared. Eldridge bloomed. New school, clinic funded. Yet shadows lingered. Voss disappeared for good, rumored Canada. And me? The ring scar faded, but trust? Shattered glass. Summer heat baked the fields as I walked the back 40, probes humming new surveys. A figure at the fence, Ethan, gaunt, pleading. Forgive. No, I said soft. But mercy? Walk away. He did, silhouette shrinking to nothing. Peace settled, uneasy. But in the quiet, I heard it. Mom's laugh, Dad's hum, the land's whisper. Reborn, unbowed. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and desperation, sunlight slanting through high windows like judgment's own spotlight. It was late April, the jury back after what felt like eons of testimony. Voss's grainy video feed from some undisclosed safe house, Elena's scalpel-sharp cross-exams, even a teary mom recounting the loan that never was. I'd taken the stand myself, voice steady as I laid bare the betrayal. Ethan's whispers in the dark, Richard's veiled threats, Lorraine's honeyed lies. They didn't just want the land, I'd said, eyes on the foreman, a burly farmer with calluses like mine. They wanted to erase us. Now the wait. I sat rigid in the gallery, Dad's hand rough on my knee, Mom's rosary beads clicking soft. The Caldwells were across the aisle, Richard stone-faced, Lorraine dabbing eyes with a lace hanky that screamed performance, Ethan absent, probably drowning in whatever hole he'd crawled into after our last stare-down. Reporters crammed the back, notebooks poised, the air thick with the buzz of Harper versus Caldwell still trending statewide. All rise, the bailiff intoned, and Judge Harlan, same as the deputy, elevated for this circus, swept in, robes billowing. My heart jackhammered as he cleared his throat, verdict envelope in hand. In the matter of Harper versus Caldwell AgriCorp, the words blurred, fraud affirmed, suppression proven, damages awarded, 25 million, plus punitive. Gas rights secured, countersuit dismissed. The gavel cracked like thunder, and the courtroom erupted. Cheers from our side, gasps from theirs. Mom sobbed into my shoulder, Dad's whoop raw. Elena hugged me fierce, whispering, "You did it, Ivy. You buried them." But as Richard lunged up, face purple, bellowing about appeals, the doors swung wide. And strode a man I'd prayed for but half feared dead. Harlan Voss, not on screen this time, but flesh and blood, flanked by feds in cheap suits. "Your Honor," he called, voice gravel over the din, "new evidence." For the record, the judge banged order, eyes narrowing. "Mr. Voss, thought you were indisposed." Was. Till the U.S. Attorney's Office dug me up. He approached the bench, handing over a thumb drive and folders thick as Bibles. Full forensic on Caldwell's servers. Emails, wire transfers, even audio. Richard didn't just suppress my report. He orchestrated the Harper accidents. Brake lines cut on that tractor, paid witness to look away. Gasps rippled, louder than the verdict. Richard sagged, Lorraine's handkerchief dropping like a white flag. Voss turned to the court, then to me, his eyes meeting mine across the chaos. Miss Harper? This land's a vein of black gold. Shale fractured perfect, oil seeps confirmed. Not 50 mil, 200. And they knew, from day one. Called it worthless to bleed you dry. The surveyor spoke, and the world tilted. Flashbulbs exploded, reporters shouting questions as feds cuffed Richard. White-collar cuffs, but steel all the same. Lorraine wailed, "My husband," but it rang hollow. Voss nodded to me, a ghost of a smile. "Told you we'd get even." Outside, the steps became a madhouse. Mics thrust, cameras blinding. I clutched the rail, wind whipping my hair, Elena shielding me. "No comment," she barked, but I paused, turning to the sea of faces. "This isn't about money," I said, voice carrying on the breeze. "It's about blood, mine, my parents, the soils. They tried to steal it all, but truth rises like gas from the ground." Harper's hold. Cheers drowned the questions, locals surging forward with hugs, signs waving. Dad pulled me into a bear hug, Mom beaming through tears. "Your grandpa'd be bustin' buttons, Ivy." We drove home convoy style, sirens escorting against retaliation that wouldn't come. FBI swarming the mansion by now. The farm greeted us golden in sunset, back 40 humming with promise. That night, over pot roast. Mom's, not Lorraine's. We planned, co-op expanded, Voss consulting for a cut, Elena on retainer. Legacy, Dad toasted, glasses clinking. But sleep brought dreams. The ravine again, Ethan's hands not pressing but pleading. I woke sweating, dawn light gray. A knock, soft, hesitant. Ethan on the porch, unshaven, eyes red-rimmed. "Ivy, I didn't know about the brakes." "Swear it." "Liar or fool?" I asked, door cracked. "Doesn't matter. Go." He did, but left a package. Mom's locket, lost in the wedding chaos. Inside, a note. "Sorry's not enough. But it's all I got." Mercy flickered, but I banked it. May bloomed with deals, energy firms bidding, but I chose local, sustainable frac, community shares. Eldridge transformed, roads paved, jobs bloomed, a Harper wing at the hospital. Lorraine plea bargained, misdemeanor fraud, community service in soup kitchens, her pearls pawned. Richard? Federal time, Empire auctioned. Ethan vanished to Chicago, rumors of rehab, a fresh start minus fortune. Voss stuck around, surprisingly, rented the old Voss cabin down the road, advising on rigs. "You saved my hide," he'd say over beers on the porch. "Oh, you." Summer harvest was bumper, fields heavy with corn and promise. I walked them often, boots sinking in rich earth, feeling the pulse beneath. One evening, storm clouds piled like regrets, lightning forking distant. A figure at the creek, not Ethan, but Jake, his old buddy, now ally. Heard about the surveyor. Voss. Legend. You okay? Better, I said, skipping a stone. Ripples spread, secrets surfacing. Fall circled back, festival lights twinkling. No proposal this time. Just me, dancing solo to the band, friends cheering. Mom and Dad watched proud, the farm thriving behind. But November brought the twist. A letter from Ethan, postmarked Chicago. Divorce final. Wired my share of the settlement. Clean break. Found God, or something. Don't hate me. I burned it, ashes scattering on wind. Hate, too heavy for this life. Winter whispered close, snow dusting the survey stakes. Voss and I broke ground. First well, careful, clean. As the bit sank, a cheer rose, but my eyes stung. For the dead, Mom, Dad, the girl I'd been. For the living, us, unbroken. Yet in quiet moments, doubt crept. Was revenge hollow? The land healed, but scars? Eternal. One night, fire crackling, Elena visited with wine. You changed the game, Ivy. Women like us, small town, big fights, we win now. I clinked, smiling true. Damn right. Spring 2019 dawned reborn. Rigs hummed low, royalties flowing. I hired on. Women mostly, locals tough as nails. The co-op grew, Eldridge a hub, not a has-been. Voss proposed partnership, business, with a wink. I laughed. Friends first. He nodded, content. The final hook, a documentary crew, sniffing Oscar bait. Your story, betrayal, rebirth. Epic. I demurred. Just life. American as apple pie and payback. They filmed anyway, but I watched from afar, content in shadows. Years blurred. Farm empire, but mine, ethical, rooted. Mom's garden bloomed wild. Dad's stories etched in grandkids' ears. Mine, eventually, with a partner untainted, steady as the creek. But the core? That second chance, the surveyor's voice cracking the lie. It echoed eternal. Worthless? No. Priceless. By 2025, the Harper Fields weren't just land. They were legend, a patchwork of green corn and steel rigs humming like contented beasts under Iowa's endless sky. 7 years since the verdict, 6 since Voss's big speak sealed the Caldwell's fate, and I'd built something unbreakable. A co-op that spanned counties, royalties funding scholarships, clinics, even a youth farm camp where kids like I was learned soil's secrets without the sting of loss. Eldridge had changed too. Main Street spruced, a Harper harvest market drawing tourists for the farm that fought back. Billboards touted it, from dirt to dynasty. I stood on the porch that crisp December morning. The same date as my rebirth, the crash that never was. Coffee steaming in my mug, watching snow flurries dance. At 32, I was stronger. Lines around my eyes from laughter, not lies. Auburn hair cropped practical, hands scarred from work, not wreck. No husband, but no chains. Voss, partner in business, friend in quiet beers, his cabin a fixture in my orbit. Elena, godmother to the camp kids, her firm our shield. Mom bustled out, scarf bundled, pressing a Tupperware of cookies. For the crew, they're diving deep today. The documentary wrap, final interviews, drone shots of the wells. I'd greenlit it after years of no's. Redemption Rose, they called it. A gritty docudrama blending my words with reenactments. No ravine crash, tasteful shadows. Time, I told the director, a sharp New Yorker named Riley. He'll enough to tell. Dad joined us. Arm around Mom, his knee long mended. Proud Ivy girl. Like your ma's pie, layers deep. I hugged them fierce, throat tight. Layers, the betrayal that birthed me anew, the secrets unearthed, the revenge that tasted sweet but settled heavy. The crew arrived mid-morning, vans kicking dust despite the chill. Riley, all Brooklyn edge in a parka, mic'd me up on the back 40, where it started. Action, she called, camera rolling as Voss wandered into frame. Unscripted, handing me a coarse sample fresh from a test bore. Still gushin', he said, gravel voice warm. 200 mil was lowball. We're at 300 now, sustainable draw. Riley's eyes lit, gold. But she pivoted to me. Ivy, that day in court, Voss speaking the truth. What ran through you? I paused, wind tugging, the earth solid under boots. Shock. Vindication. But mostly, peace. They called it worthless, demanded it like scraps. Surveyor spoke, and the lie cracked. Not just gas or oil, it was our worth, proven. Cut. Hugs, thanks, promises of Sundance glory. As they packed, Ethan appeared, ghost from Chicago, leaner, sober eyes in a wool coat. Word of the doc had drawn him, or maybe closure. Ivy, he said, hands shoved deep. Saw the trades. Congrats. No venom left, just echoes. Thanks. You. Clean. Teachin' AG at a community college. Kids like us before. I nodded, no bridge offered. Good. Means you're human. He smiled faint, handing a small box, not a ring, but seeds. Heirloom tomatoes from our first garden. Plan M. For old times. I took it, watching him drive off. No ravine, just road ahead. Mercy, full circle. Evening brought feast. Co-op potluck at the barn. Lanterns strung, fiddles scraping. Neighbors toasted. Farmers who'd stood firm. Voss regaling with the big speak. Tales, Elena dancing with Dad. Kids ran wild, faces smeared with pie. Midnight, I slipped out to the creek, box in hand. Scattered the seeds on black soil, whispering to ghosts, grow strong. No more worthless. Back inside, Riley caught me. One more? Off record. Your twist, the real one. I sipped cider, firelight flickering. Twist? Thought it was the gas. She leaned in. Nah. You could have crushed them total. Leaks. But you stopped at justice. What? Eyes on the flames, I saw it. The ravine, blood, rebirth. Revenge is fire, warms, but burns if unchecked. I died once for hate, lived twice for balance. They lost empire, I gained life. That's the win. She nodded, profound. Epic. Dawn broke white, crew gone, quiet reclaiming. I walked the wells, rigs nodding like old friends. Phone buzzed, Elena. Appeals dead. Caldwell's dissolved. You're free, utterly. Free. The words sang, light as snow. Years stacked. Camp thrived. I mentored. Widows, daughters, fighters. Boss and I. Steady, unlabeled, content in the unspoken. A proposal once, under Ferris lights. No, but a partnership deeper. By 2030, redemption rose Oscar-bound, but I watched from the farm, grandkids, mine, with a quiet vet named Cal, irony sweet, tumbling in hay. Mom and dad retired happy, porch swings creaking stories. The end. No by K, happy, hard one. Betrayal scar faded, but lesson etched. Worth ain't given, it's claimed, voice by voice, like a surveyor breaking ground. And in the fields, gas whispered up, black gold from buried lies, fueling not just rigs, but rebirths untold. Ivy Harper, twice born unbowed. The farm, eternal.